Howdy. Dude, I fucking love your background. Can I just say that first and foremost? Where are you based at?
I think he's still dealing with something real quick. Let's give him a minute.
Yeah. Put it on lo-fi while we're at it.
Go back to my formal background.
All right. I think I can hear you guys now.
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah. What's up?
Awesome. Where are you based at? Because I love your background.
Miami.
Oh, okay.
I guessed Puerto Rico last night on stream.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Well, I knew you were in America somewhere, but I couldn't remember. Normally I do. Normally I like do a lot of investigations before I bring someone on, but like, you know, you were like, well, I'm free tonight. And I was like, all right, well, fuck it. I'm free tonight. Like, let's go, you know, kind of impromptu thing instead of, you know, a bunch of like announcements and stuff. But how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I just took a nap, so forgive my sleepy face. But I got about 12 hours until I go live with Alex Jones, so I'm very fucking excited.
Yo, that sounds like a ton of fun. I would love to meet Alex Jones. He seems like such a fucking, I want to know if Alex Jones, right? It's kind of the same thing with Donald Trump. I want to know if he's like the same way, like, you know, like when you're just like chilling with him as like, you know, like I want to know, like, if you're like hanging out and you're like, so like, what's your favorite restaurant? And he's like, I'm going to tell you right now, fucking Applebee's. Applebee's is the greatest goddamn restaurant. I know you may think that it's a bunch of corporate bullshit, but like Applebee's, those fucking potato kick liquor, you know, like, does he like just maintain that energy the whole time?
I'm pretty sure it's that exact energy, honestly. You know, I've seen him do 3-4 hour podcasts with Rogan, and it's like, even 5-hour podcast. I think that's just who he is, man. I don't think he's performing at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know. You know, the Japanese say you got 3 faces, right? You know, the one you show the world, the one you show yourself, and the one you don't show anyone. Or sorry, your friends, and then the one you don't show anyone.
Yeah, I'm sure he has his private moments as well, but I think the dude's 98% of the time I think he's just on.
Yeah. Well, so we recently like kind of like reacted to, also, by the way, Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown. Where can everybody find you?
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all over the place. But the live stream will be on YouTube tomorrow. Just search Liberty Lockdown and subscribe. And the man, the myth, legend, Alex Jones will be with me live for an hour. I cannot believe it. His people reached out to me out of the blue and just said, you know, I was on InfoWars 2 days ago, and apparently, I don't know if he liked what he heard or if his producers did, but they asked if I wanted to have him on, and I was like, absolutely, let's do this.
All right, so I'm Fabian Liberty. You can search Fabian Liberty, Rumble, YouTube, you know, Twitter, but primarily Twitch, which has been an interesting place. You know, we came into the Twitch space mostly because no one else was here that was a libertarian, right? Like Young Ripa was here, but he just like played games, right? And so in the Twitch politics space, radically left wing, and it's really difficult for libertarians or conservatives to get a foothold because they kind of have this natural spirit where they don't want to self-censor. And so they just end up getting in trouble and getting kicked off. It's like YouTube, but a little bit worse. And and so because of that, it's become such an echo chamber, but it's been really fun being here and in bringing other people from off platform because, you know, it's just a constant, like, I'm constantly locking heads with like everybody, you know, debated Destiny a bunch of times, got to debate, you know, pretty much all of these, like, you know, lefty Twitch streamers with the exception of Vosh because he's a pussy. You know, he's debated like 2 ANCAPs before, and they were both ANCAPs that, you know, we found out were his friends LARPing as ANCAPs.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Yeah, but we saw your, you know, you moderating the Dave Smith and, you know, Sticks Hexenhammer 666 debate. And we were like, oh, we got to check this out. Trump's legacy from 2 libertarians, you know, 1 ANCAP, 1 kind of minarchist paleo libertarian, occultist all at the same time, which is always weird. And I was like, yeah, we got to check it out. And so like, once I did it again, I was like, oh, I got to hit him up again, see if he wanted to do it. So, yeah.
No,
so there we are.
I'm glad you did, man. By the way, should I? Since you said we can get kicked off of things, should I be watching my language here?
Oh no. So the only difference between YouTube in terms of Twitch is that you got to be a little bit more careful about misgendering and dead naming. And other than that, if it's fine on YouTube, it's usually fine on Twitch. It's just like the chatting and typing is the thing. And then eventually, once a journalist writes an article about you, they get scared and they ban you.
Well, Caitlyn Jenner is a beautiful queen, and that's all I have to say.
Yes,
and that
she
queen
is.
knows how to slay.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, she produces beautiful children. I'll give her that. Let's just say that. Not beautifully like in a moral position, not like principled people, but certainly aesthetically pleasing.
Beings. Yeah, monstrous human beings, but extraordinarily aesthetic.
I don't know, that one, the youngest one who's a billionaire now, it's like, I'll tolerate it.
They're almost attractive enough to be like, I can fix her. Oh, shit.
Will do that for you.
I'd try.
You're right. I would try. Yeah, but so yeah, like you are I don't know if you're, like I said, I wasn't able to do like a ton of research. I've listened to some of your stuff, occasionally. I think Mark probably, I don't know if you've listened to some of his stuff before. But like, where do you fall in kind of the libertarian kind of ethos? Like, how would you describe yourself?
I'm Ron Paul version 2.0, basically. I'm just hardcore Ron Pauler from the way back. And I heard Dave Smith on Joe Rogan 7 years ago on his first appearance there, and I was like, okay, this is there's someone else that's carrying on the Ron Paul legacy. I started my show in May of 2020, titled it Liberty Lockdown, so you already know what I was about. I was about railing against the lockdowns, and found an audience very rapidly. And less than a year later, I had Dave on my show, and then he and I have become really good friends. I've now toured the country, doing speaking events for both the Libertarian Party as well as I was a private money mortgage broker, so I retired in my 30s when the lockdown started. So I now have become a bit of a specialist on ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So I'm able to discuss that at length, and because of that, I get a lot of speaking opportunities, kind of in the James Lindsay, Vivek Ramaswamy type lane.
Yeah, that's I'd love to talk ESG with you a little bit. I think I came to anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism kind of naturally, slowly, as a left libertarian, like a pragmatist, and eventually the philosophy and the theory dragged me kicking and screaming into anarcho-capitalism. Like in my heart, I'm still a leftist, I think. But philosophically, like I've just denounced critical theory and, consequentialism and things like that. And, I think that probably the two biggest influences on me currently was Robert Murphy's chaos theory, in terms of describing how rights enforcement agencies and things like that could actually work without a monopoly on state violence in courts. And then Hans Hermann Oppe's argumentation ethics, once I really sunk my teeth into understanding it, I think has like radically changed the way I philosophically approach the non-aggression principle.
Nice. Yeah, I know Bob Murphy. I haven't read that piece. I've read Democracy, the God That Failed by Hoppe, but other than that, I haven't dug much deeper. But Rothbard really converted me to anarcho-capitalism long time ago. So I've been a believer. I also, because of my career background, I really applied Austrian economics in the real world. I was not just a mortgage broker, but a private money mortgage broker. So I dealt with real people's capital, and I was in competition with the banking system. So I understand on a very deep level why they have a competitive advantage and why it's so incredibly evil. So I come from more of a real world confirmation as to these ideas being valid. And obviously I was able to utilize this knowledge to, create a pretty sizable amount of wealth at a relatively young age. And because of that, I really strongly now believe that my belief system is correct and that I'm applying it in a proper fashion. And I go out of my way with my show to try and encourage, my fellow libertarians to take advantage of that competitive advantage, because I don't think many of them recognize that's what it is. I mean, we have
So-
1% knowledge when it comes to the economic system and how it works, both against us and for us, if we know how to use it correctly.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in Austrian economic theory, but like, I guess I'm curious, how do you apply, the principles of like human action and stuff when we have such a mixed market economy where like, like you could look at, let's say, the housing market, right? And you can recognize, okay, obviously we had lockdowns. Obviously, we had shipping issues, et cetera, so if there's going to be, a less of a supply, if the supply chain breaks down, right, there's going to be less construction, housing market is going to mean more corporate investment and, higher prices for a period of time that will eventually stabilize. But like, how do you kind of apply those theories and those kind of axioms to an economy that, whenever the fucking Federal Reserve wants can, do quantitative easing and, create housing market inflation or, asset inflation, or for whatever fucking reason could do quantitative,
Tightening.
oh my God, what? Tightening. Thank you. And like, start selling off those things. Like how do you utilize those principles in a way that's advantageous in a market that's like kind of unpredictable because of those socialist models?
Yeah, well, I mean, knowing that ultimately the boom bust cycle is undefeated, you can play it in a way that becomes extraordinarily lucrative. So the way I got my start was in 2008. I knew, because I had just come out of college, and I knew that the real estate market was extraordinarily inflated. I was telling all my friends and family to sell their houses in 05, 06. No one listened to me, of course. But in the interim, I was stockpiling away as much money as I possibly could, getting my credit in order, getting my income in order, so that I would qualify for loans when shit hits the fan. Shit hit the fan in 08, 09. I proceeded to buy as many houses as I possibly could get my hands on. I was a young man at the time, so it was a huge risk. Everyone thought I was crazy. So like, the real estate market's never bouncing back. It's very hard for people to imagine or even remember this, but. Right. 2009 to 2010, if you were trying to buy a house, people thought you were out of your mind, and it was the best time in our lives to buy a house, and that's ultimately how I used my understanding of the boom bust cycle to capitalize on that moment. Like, basically, it's a blood in the streets, let's go get paid type of mentality, which obviously Warren Buffett has made very famous doing that in his own right. I just come at it from a strictly Austrian economic background, in the sense that I can understand when the leverage in the system gets to a point of unsustainability, and I can more or less predict when we're going to have an implosion. Right now, we're dealing with a very inflationary environment, and ultimately, because of that, even though the Federal Reserve would like to keep rates low, their hand is being forced to hike interest rates into a recessionary period, which I think will ultimately add to the cataclysmic effects, which will create a global depression. So I am once again warning people. I think the housing market, the stock market, everything else is in a truly precarious position. I've been saying this for a year, so I was warning people, in late 2021, and obviously if they went to cash, they've been able to take a lot of profits off the table and then come in and reinvest it now that the market has already eaten shit. I think we're going to be in a continuing bear market for a couple years now, maybe even longer than that. So you're going to have to be really nimble and trade on that. But I don't know. I'm giving you a lot of information here, but this is the way in which I've utilized that information.
If I could ask a question, then, what do you think about the people who just follow like whatever Nancy Pelosi's husband invests in, or people equivalent, right?
Paul Pelosi.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I can never remember his name.
If you can front run Paul Pelosi, you should be doing it. But I don't think you can front run him. I don't know how you can know what he's trading. I know that they reported after the fact.
It's too late. Probably, right? You buy the rumors, sell the news. Yeah, it's too late. Usually.
Yeah. So, but obviously the whole game is rigged. I mean, that's another thing that, even though I'm aware of that, I still know I have to function in the real world as a professional investor, professional money manager. I brokered hundreds of millions of dollars, and I had to keep my investors' capital working. So even in the face of knowing how much of a fraud all of this stuff is, I still had to manage this money in a way that could produce a great return for my investors, which were all, for the most part, retirees that relied on this income. And as a fiduciary, I had to put their concerns in front of my own. So it was a lot of pressure. But I only had one loan that defaulted in my 10-year career running my company, and that's a pretty goddamn good track record. So
basically, what you're claiming, what you're claiming is that you were the poor man's Michael Burry.
Yeah, kind of.
you're like, I see all this shit. I looked at the numbers. This is not fucking working, boys.
Yes, but I did not have, billions that I was
Right.
able to play with. I was dealing with a couple $100 million. I also wasn't taking the inverse bet. I didn't bet on the implosion in 2008-09. I was a very young man at the time. That would have taken a level of expertise and knowledge that I simply didn't have at that point.
Well, you also
and $1.5 billion.
Yeah,
right. They won't even let you play. They won't even let you short shit like that unless you have enough money to do it. That's wild, man. I wish I had known more about that. The only mistake that I think financially that like I knew that I'm so like I hate myself so much for now is that like I was telling people to buy Bitcoin before crypto wallets were a thing. And I was like, no, you should do it. And people were like, this is stupid. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And then like, I was there and I was like, this is really complicated. And like this whole physical key thing, I don't get it. I'm just going to spend this $200 on some fun shit and like not worry about it. And like at the time, Bitcoin was like $4 a coin or something. And like I was sitting there being like, I was sitting there ready to do it. And then was like, this is a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. I don't have time to fuck with this. And I just like every day I'm like, fuck, I would be a millionaire.
Yeah, dude. You would have had, what's that, 40 Bitcoin at 20K. That would have been $8 million. Oops.
Yeah, unless of course you sold it when it peaked at like 60.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like fucking,
yeah,
God, that would have been awful.
Could have made $24 million on a $200 investment. What are you gonna do, man?
What are we gonna do about BlackRock buying up neighborhoods?
Well, that's a huge problem, and that's another thing. I was actually on Timcast IRL about a year ago, and I way undersold the nefarious nature of BlackRock, and that's probably my biggest career regret is that I had an opportunity to speak to over 1 million people, and I went in there and I was like, ultimately, it's the Federal Reserve that's your enemy more than it's BlackRock, which is still a factual statement, clearly, but it's I didn't understand Larry Fink's role in the propagation of ESG, the fact that he was basically foisting it upon the world, and I made a huge mistake in that regard. So in terms of problem solving as to how we defeat BlackRock and ESG, obviously ending the central banks is the way you do that. Beyond that, you're just looking at band-aids, which would be turning towards the government, which has ultimately created this problem, and saying, hey, could you put some band-aids on my bullet wounds? Like, that's not going to really work out.
Yeah, I don't know. Like ESG seems like one of those things that's really terrifying, and like there's no easy solution to. Now, granted, I would say that about most things that like I would say paleolibs and conservatives think they can fix. It seems that they're just like they don't understand how deep the problem goes because they don't have a philosophical answer to the Marxist, right?
Correct.
You know, the Marxist gives moral prescriptions, and the conservative used to do that when they were hardcore Christians, and now they're not. And so they're stuck in this position of like, you know, what is it? That famous quote from the National Review mission statement from William F. Buckley when he's like, you know, conservatives are the individuals that put out their hand to say stop or slow down, right? And it's like, yeah, you just described 100 years of negotiating with people that's ultimate philosophical goal, even if they're useful idiots and they don't understand it, is, you know, the destruction of capitalism, the destruction of social institutions, et cetera, to usher in a utopia. And but ESG seems to be like a particularly terrifying one because it utilizes the weaknesses, and I don't want to say the weaknesses of capitalism because that's not quite true, but it's the weaknesses of a mixed market, mostly capitalist economy, which is, you know, regulatory capture and, you know, the government kind of having like a mostly hands-off approach, right? Except for in these certain areas, right? And so what ends up, compared to like Stalinism, right?
Sure.
And so like, yeah, I see ESG and I'm just like, it's like one of the most blackpilling things for me because like I don't see a way out of it because it seems that large investors work with, BlackRock, is a big one, obviously. What is it?
State Street,
Vanguard. This idea that, like, I think the thing that was the biggest black pill moment for me was when I saw that Tesla had a terrible score and Nike had a great score. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
the entire sale of this is all just woke bullshit. Like, this is completely false.
Yep.
Like, what do you
It's a
think
scam.
about it?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, you laid it out pretty well. And I think that it is the biggest problem we face. You said it's one of the biggest. I think it is the biggest. ESG paired with the central banks of the world are the biggest problem we face. They're ultimately the genesis of both why our economic model has become a fascistic one, but also why wokeness has taken over our civilization. And people don't understand it, so they don't know how to defeat it. They don't even know that it's happening. They think that this is all a natural, incantation that came through academia or something like that. And it's certainly partially that, and the Marxist infiltration that occurred in academia added to this, and it created the useless idiots that help propagate these messages. But at the highest level, the big businesses of the world are utilizing it for their own purposes. It's a commonly used term is called greenwashing, where they don't do anything to help the environment, and it's all about accumulation of additional power, control, money. Same old game as always, except it's global in nature. It's no longer just a single economic civilization that's being manipulated in this fashion. It's the global, quote unquote, capitalist market, which is now deeply fascistic in its structure, but it's global in nature, which fascism is usually a nationalistic principle. So it's communo-fascism is how I describe it. It's daunting, man. Very daunting.
So what I would say is, first of all, for I don't know if you're streaming, but at least for my audience, ESG, environmental social governance, right? This is I just realized we were talking a lot about a thing that some people may not quite know.
Sure.
And so what ESG is, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know that this is a particular interest of yours that you probably know a bit more about, but basically what it is the largest, it is the hedge fund's answer to the global elite, if you will, the Klaus Schwabs of the world, saying that we need stakeholder capitalism as opposed to shareholder capitalism, which is this idea of when looking at a supply and demand equation, there's an assumption that the socialist bakes in, which is a marginal social cost, right? So, for example, negative externalities of pollution would be a social cost that's not necessarily met by the supply and demand equation. This is a lie propagated by governments that create institutions like the EPA that give these companies, cover and cloud from being sued. And so the only reason they exist is the state protects them, that existence to begin with. So it's another example of, like, the government creates a problem and then the government offers you a solution. And so what the hedge fund managers and the corporate elite have done is created a whole nother metric to measure the value of a product, which is environmental, social, and governance. Now, environmental should be a 1/3 part of the equation that deals with the environmental impact, sustainability, how many precious metals they're using. So, for example, comparing Apple to Fairphone would obviously get a perfect environmental score, and Apple would get a horrendous one. Except that's not how it necessarily works. Social would be the charity work that they do, as well as diversity, equity, inclusion in their corporate structure. And governance should be about, like, whistleblower protections and things like that. But in reality, social and governance mostly just become how woke is the company. So 2/3 of the equation becomes how woke. Yeah. And so just I wanted to, like, kind of give that overview. If I'm wrong in any way or I'm missing a critical element, let me know.
No, you nailed it. I think that the only thing to add is that its inception comes via the United Nations. Kofi Annan was the Secretary General in the late 2000s, early aughts, and they created this paper, this document that basically laid out exactly what you described. At the time, it didn't include the language ESG, but it had kind of the framework for it. He sends out a letter to 50 of the biggest businesses across the world and says, hey, this is the idea I'm having as to how we can really, the primary target of it was to go after climate change or anthropogenic global warming, which is just man-made global warming, the carbon crisis. If you're a believer in that, that's what this was all believed to be addressing. But now you have the central banks, the biggest governments on Earth, and the biggest businesses on Earth all working in tandem to address climate change, quote unquote. And if you know anything about the track record of government, much less big government, addressing any issue, if you are concerned with man-made climate change, you should be extraordinarily concerned that these people are in charge of remedying it.
I mean, the litmus test in terms of environmental, because like I consider myself pretty concerned with the environment. And I'm not necessarily like a science denier in the sense that I think that like humanity isn't having a negative impact on the environment, which may harm us. I obviously I'm not an alarmist in the same way that, you know, I recognize that people have been saying the world's going to end in 10 years since the 1970s, and somehow the world doesn't end and their predictions are off. But my litmus test is very simple. Like, are you supporting nuclear energy? And if you're not, I don't fucking believe you. I don't believe any of your fucking motivations.
Facts. If that's not your starting point on how to reduce carbon, given our current technological capacity, then you're a fraud. You're a fucking liar. You're a scumbag. You're a thief. You're a, you know, I could go on and on about how much I despise you. I am personally
You're Malthusian. You're Malthusian.
Yeah, you are at that point, because your only conclusion, and this is what Klaus Schwab, this is what Bill Gates, this is what all of these people that are at the front lines of propagating this nonsense believe, is that it's ultimately reducing population that is really the ultimate solution to all of this, when the humanitarian answer is clearly to innovate our way through it, not to reduce the population to address it.
Right, and like carbon capture technology, nuclear technology, like you know, these are things that can change the world as we know it and reduce the damage or even eliminate the damage that we do.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I've gotten involved, is because once I realized, you know, how deep seated it was, why wokeness was infiltrating all of our cultures. And I understand, you know, all of the cultural decline aspects that can come from that. Because of my economic background and my business background, I now understand how catastrophic it can be, both economically as well as in terms of, you know, getting enough food for people, enough electricity for people when it's freezing outside. These are all, you know, of deep concern to me, because I think I am a humanitarian at the end of the day. I want people to survive and thrive, and I think that these people are not interested in either of those things. I think they are willing to sacrifice the living to prevent the death of the future us is kind of their worldview, and I think
it's all bullshit. That's not true.
Yeah, well,
it's what they say for the moral impetus to do the shit that they want to do.
Well, I'm giving the steel man side of their argument. You know, I don't actually believe it either, but you know, giving them the best possible view of their beliefs, say that they are right and that carbon is ultimately a huge danger, and that the planet is going to heat up to unsustainable levels. Okay, fine. But do you want government and big business working in tandem with the central banks to alleviate this, or do you want to decentralize, allow as many entrepreneurs as possible to be working on solutions day and night to try and remedy it? Clearly, to me, the answer is the latter. So that's why I'm now making it a focal point of my show.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. Last night, I was talking to a PhD candidate in microbiology. Sorry, and he works on like algae, like farming algae stuff, and he's real passionate about algae biofuels, right? But of course, like most, you know, high IQ scientists, they're leftists. Right. Which is, you know, unfortunate, but, you know, wisdom and IQ aren't necessarily the same thing. And, you know, and you know, it's just like the kind of the Nietzschean problem of, you know, the man on the mount with the large ear. You know, when you focus in one industry, you kind of become silly and stupid to a lot of other things if you're not morally based. But we were talking about algae biofuels, and he went on and on and on about, like, you know, the government resources and how, you know, the capitalist market wouldn't be able to provide, you know, an answer to these things. And I just let him go. I was sitting there and I was so happy. I was just like, yeah. And I let him go on this giant spiel. And I was like, you do know that, like, UPS was the one that like got massive breakthroughs in algae biofuel, but they had to shut it down because they didn't have the money to do so, because it would have been profitable and more environmentally sound for them to fly planes with algae biofuel. And maybe if the government wasn't stealing 40 to 52% of all of the GDP, like they would have been able to do that. And it was just like, well, anyways, let's talk about something else. And I was just like, I was like, all right, brother. I was just like, oh, fucking swish. Nothing but net on that one.
Well, it's also just so absurd to believe that if these are truly catastrophic crises of which we must come up with a solution, that there wouldn't be profit to be found in that process. I just think it's utter lunacy. Like, if you're able to produce an electricity or whatever that doesn't have any carbon involved, any fuels or whatever, you're going to have a massive market for that, if for no other reason than just the marketing ability to say, like, we are shifting over to this product. Like, that already exists. Right. That incentive,
first to market advantage.
Yeah, that incentive is already built in the system, and obviously if you come up with cold fusion or some sort of incredible breakthrough, you're going to be the richest person on the planet. Not to mention, civilization is going to be in your debt, and you'll go down in history as one of the most brilliant people to ever live. So I just think it's like all of these theses that if it weren't for the government, there would be no innovation in these fields. It's just flatly wrong.
So I wonder if I can push back on you a little bit,
Sure.
Because I have a pyramid structure. Well, actually, before I get
I'm not interested in investing in a pyramid scheme. Thank you, though.
No, not a pyramid scheme. I'm
investing in being at the top of.
Yeah, it's a business opportunity. No, I'm just kidding. I actually think if I was to rank the issues, right? You talk about ESG and and things like that, and central banking as kind of the primary problem. I actually think that I think you're wrong, but I think it's my number two. The thing is that I think the biggest threat currently to liberty and to anarchy is a poverty of philosophy. I think the reason we can't fight these things is because and maybe I hang out with too many objectivists, because I do hang out with a lot of objectivists, and that might be part of the problem. I'm biased in that regard. But I think the biggest problem really is that we have lost all of our Enlightenment values as a culture. And what has occurred is that the left has become increasingly Marcusian, increasingly consequentialist. And what I'm now seeing is, as the right loses its religion, most right-wingers are consequentialists. The majority of right-wingers that identify as like tradcons, right? They're leftists that just have traditional values. And I think what has occurred, and so I guess my focus, I think, in terms of moving forward, is primarily the abolishment of public education and the indoctrination camps that are churning out. I mean, like, if we think of it like this, currently there are 500,000 children in our education system, right? 500,000 currently, not 500,000. It's 5 million. 5 million currently in public schools. I knew it was a 5 number and I was struggling. 5 million. And so if we look at,
50 million?
Is it 50 million? Can you look it up? 330 is the population. So 50 million sounds better. How many children in U.S. public schools? I'm over here looking like a dumbass. I apologize.
First class asshole.
Gotta be 50.
49.8. You're right. It's 50. Okay.
Yeah.
So 50 million, right? And we have these kind of like, they're becoming increasingly extremely woke in terms of every teacher is being engaged in critical pedagogy. And, which is, for chat, just critical theory applied to schooling, just like critical gender studies is applied to gender, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me just interject to say what we just described in terms of ESG is in the public school. It's social emotional learning. It's SEL. It's very similar mechanism for implementation, a la Freire is really where this came from. So yeah. I agree.
Yeah, 100%. I would say, well, it's, it's a focus on critical democracy and it's kind of like, interestingly enough, social emotional learning, if you want to chat, if you're looking for more information on like the academics writing, the key word you're looking for is transformative social emotional learning, not just SEL or CASEL. Because if you look up CASEL or SEL, you'll find a lot of really good things that are meant to deal with kids with conduct disorder or oppositional defiant disorder, when what you're really looking for is the seminars that is subverting social emotional learning. Because SEL's originally wasn't that bad of an idea when it was done by guidance counselors for kids with problems.
Right. But now we're treating every kid as if they have some sort of defect that's like deep seated, and that's catastrophic.
So like, I guess my main argument is that like, I think that that we can't solve any of these problems until we have a philosophy that is promulgated in such a way that we have a defense against these things.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but the issue is that we don't have time. In my humble estimation, I think we have a decade before full implosion of both culturally as well as economically, potentially with World War III included somewhere in there. So if you're going to take a long time horizon solution to this, clearly you're right. I mean, we do need to resolve the education system or not resolve, but totally revolutionize it and tear the existing one to shreds. So I agree with you. I'm just of the belief that, if you're going to look towards a long-term solution when you have a cliff that's, a couple years down the road, you're ultimately going to end up failing. So that my job right now, I feel like, is to let the adults in the room know what's occurring so that they can prepare themselves and their family as best as possible. Obviously, I encourage them to migrate their kids from public school into either private or hopefully homeschooling. Do everything in your own life to.
Private school's done. It's destroyed.
Yeah,
and
for the most part, you're right.
If the conservatives get school choice, it'll be 100% destroyed.
It might be, yeah, but anyways, what I was saying is like I just want to see. No, it's okay. I just want to see, because I think it's so urgent. I think that my job is to just let the people that have kids right now, that have a small nest egg, be able to weather this better than the normies that have no idea what's going on, and hopefully, because those people will come out better, they will ultimately end up in a power seat where they can actually hopefully have some sort of dictation as to how we restructure society post collapse. And I know that sounds really dark, but that's my honest estimation.
So what you're saying is that you're approximate, and I'm not trying to Kathy Newman, I'm trying to actually regurgitate your point to make sure I understand it. I'm trying to Carl Rogers, not Kathy Newman here.
So what you're saying is you hate women.
True, based chat. But no, like, so what you're saying is that like, you would say, I would say you're correct if you were right about the kind of the economic collapse or the economic situation as it is in the next decade or 15 years or so. And so while, that is the underlying problem that needs to be solved, there's an immediate threat here that, if left unchecked and unchallenged, won't give us the opportunity to even fix that underlying issue.
Yeah, exactly. And
I can buy that.
I personally don't think that I'll be able to prevent this. I'm not in a position of political power or anything like that where I could actually put a stop to any of this insanity. So the best thing I can do is kind of do what you're describing. I am spreading a philosophy of liberty and the ideals of it, and sound money and all these other things, and prudent investing and all sorts of things that can help my audience. As limited as that is, I'm now reaching 10 or 20,000 people per show, and that does make some difference. Woo! And I've only been doing
those
this 2
numbers,
years.
Boys. I've been fighting in the trenches for 18 months to finally be the biggest libertarian in Twitch, and that is I am still small.
Oh, I have no idea what the size of Twitch audiences are, so I don't even know if that's good or bad, to be honest. But from my vantage point, it's pretty good, and I'm very happy with the trajectory of things. It looks like I'll be doing I've been growing doubles year over year, and I think that I'm on track to do that again. So if I can get to 30 or 40,000 people by next year, maybe Joe Rogan gives me a call the year after that, and and then it's all off to the races at that point. So like I said, I have Alex Jones on tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe I can hit the 20 or 30,000 mark starting
Good
tomorrow.
luck.
My most recent episode with Dave Smith and Styx did 40K, so that was the biggest one I've ever done. And that was only a week ago, so obviously it'll keep going up. So, I think that there's all we can do is what we can do. I'm kind of taking it down to the individual level and just grinding as hard as I possibly can, as fast as I possibly can, because I am of the deep-seated belief that this is a deeply unsustainable both structure for the economy as well as civilization. And I'm just trying to wake up as many people as I possibly can in the time I have.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed, right? So I'm not a big let me how do I preface this? So it is of my belief that we have to do a lot of gatekeeping as anarcho-capitalists to make sure that the philosophy isn't poisoned, right? Because, it is so often that I see libertarians that are of a variety that don't understand libertarian philosophy, and ultimately kind of they just end up in the same position conservatives are in.
Sure.
At the same time, I'm clearly seeing evidence of the paleo-libertarian strategy working. And so it's a weird conflict in my head because on one hand, I don't like a lot of people calling themselves libertarians that have you'll hear them talk about positive rights. You know what I mean? You'll hear them talk about things that are just antithetical to libertarian philosophy. And yet at the same time, I see people like Steven Crowder in the course of a few years go from being the government and the media to the state. And it's I see the language changing, right? And so I see this opportunity, but I also wonder if, you ever really can bring those people into the philosophy of libertarianism as is, promulgated by Rothbard and Dr. Walter Block and, and Hoppe and things like that. And so I don't know, I guess I'm curious, how you feel about that, because in one way it feels like winning. And in another way, it feels are we diluting the message of libertarianism by having, a big tent philosophy?
Well, I think that it's really about what you become. If as I said earlier, you can only control yourself. So if I'm out there getting some sort of influence when it comes to other people that I'm going on their shows, and they start to refer to the media as the enemy or the state as the enemy or whatever, and it's just small progressions. I'm just trying to get them a little bit closer to our camp. I think that if you expect them to go from hardcore status to pure anarcho-capitalist,
of course,
you're going to end up disappointed. So I view it as hugely beneficial to start to see Michael Malice's influence on Rogan or whatever big influencers he goes and he talks to. He's now becoming one himself. Dave Smith is on Timcast right now with Maj Touré. They're both good friends of mine. I hope that they're going to be.
I'm live, bitch. Don't tell people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
You can check it out later. Check it out right after we get off here. But they're the two. That's the ticket I want to see on the Libertarian Party this next presidential cycle. I want to see Dave Smith at the top, Maj Touré as his vice president, and I think it would be, an amazing opportunity. And we'll see if it happens. But yeah, I do understand the need to gatekeep. I do, because I basically did that when I got involved with the Mises Caucus, and I went over and I took over the Libertarian Party with Dave and all these other people.
That one there was a violation.
We hadn't gatekept, and we allowed our party to be taken over by people that, in my opinion, don't represent our belief system at all. So I see the value in it, but at the same time, if it weren't for the fact that the Libertarian Party had the Libertarian title to it, I would have had zero interest in reforming it. I would have just been go ahead and do your thing. I've never really been interested in politics anyways, but I just thought it was such a fucking thorn in my side to have people that are up there espousing wokeisms and collectivist mindsets that I was all right, this is not us. So you guys got to go. So I don't know. I see it both ways. Yes, gatekeeping is important at sometimes, but at the same time, you got to accept that it's going to take some time for people to really see that our ideas are correct in a deep way, and that takes time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Is I look at people like you, even though you're new, but like, you know, people like Dave Smith and Michael Malice and stuff like that has like really like one of the things they've done for me, at least for our channel, is they've allowed us to exist in a way that we couldn't exist before. And what I mean by that is not just like market share, because there's like no market share in the Twitch space. Like pretty much most of the people that are in my community, I don't share with anybody else in Twitch politics, because they're either from off platform or they were like, I was going to quit Twitch politics and then I found you, right?
Wow.
Because they don't, because it's like 90% left, with like 40% of them being like out and avid communists, which is fun because I do debate panels all the time and I love to debate. Like I fucking crush. And that's
great when you make
fun
them
for
go
me.
full on mask off.
Yeah. I what is it, a couple days ago, I got T-Jump. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's got like 12,000 subscribers. He's a big philosophy debate bro in the YouTube space. And I got him to just basically immediately bite the bullet that his definition of better healthcare would mean that the slaves of the Confederacy had better healthcare than the free black men of the North. And he was just like, yeah, I'll bite that. They had better healthcare. And I was just like, why would you bite this bullet? It's so much fun to me. But what I mean is like, what more pointed is that like, I get to talk about philosophy, and that is something that like, I think doesn't really exist in the libertarian space that much, because how that like people had to know what libertarianism even was first, right? And I see people like Dave Smith, and I see people like, you know, Michael Malice, and I see people like, you know, like the boom of the, you know, LPNH on Twitter, and which I have my issues because Carolyn Borisenko's a fucking monster. Go fuck yourself. But regardless of that, you know, Angela McCardle and all these other people, they're letting people be introduced to these concepts. And so like, maybe you're right. Maybe the big tent thing is really good for the introduction. And maybe it's kind of like my job, or people like us that are more nerdy later, to kind of do that follow up. That's like, yeah, but have you heard how evictionism works?
Right. No, I think that's a great way to view it. And, you know, a good example is Maj Touré. I think that he's wrong on some things, but he's a dude from, you know, the hood of Philadelphia who goes out into the hood of Philadelphia and he teaches people about gun rights to the African American community, and he does it in a really incredible way. But I think he's got some, you know, collectivist mindset that comes from his background that I'm still, you know, I hope that he continues to progress down kind of more my worldview. But if he doesn't, that's okay too. He's still better than 99.9% of people. So it's like, and ultimately he's reaching an entirely new marketplace that I probably couldn't. And he does it in a really impassioned way. He's an incredible spokesperson for really the revolutionary spirit, which is what we need desperately too. On top of philosophy, we need some fucking courage put back in our people. So, and some hope, some hope too, and some masculinity on top of that. Like he does it all. And you know, we all have our own strengths and we all have our own audiences that we can reach. And it's like, I'm not enough of a multifaceted tool that I can reach all of these people that I need to. So like, I'm going to need some reinforcement. So I cannot be, you know, stiff arming people that are very, very good, but not perfect. And I think that, that we now have some soldiers in this fight. And, you know, Michael Heiss, who was the creator of the Mises Caucus, which led to Dave Smith and everybody else taking over the Libertarian Party. You know, he's putting us in a position to succeed. We're going to do a tour next year. I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about it, so I'll just leave it at that. But I think there's going to be some
exclusive. Everyone, clip it, get it all over the internet.
I think there's going to be some really special things that happen, and so you know, as concerned as I am about the near term, I'm also you know, I feel like I'm gonna try, man. You know, like even if I fail, like I'm gonna give it my all in the interim and just see, like, miracles happen sometimes. Who knows?
It's interesting thinking about people like Maj Touré in you know, those specific avenues. Oh, go ahead.
Actually, I was going to ask, is Maj still on the outs with the LP? Because last I really checked in with him was probably right before we started our stream, and I remember he he was having some issues with like Nick Sarwark. Maybe not him specifically, but like the press.
Oh no, it was him specifically. I promise you. Yeah, no, Nick.
It was so long ago. I didn't want to be like de facto that piece of shit Nick Sarwark did this.
No, yeah, no, you're still right to feel that way. And and yes, Nick Sarwark was the former chair of the Libertarian Party, and he is now out. He now functions as basically a mechanism for undercutting our growth. That's his entire life's mission at this point. So he's gone. Maj has been fully embraced by the Libertarian Party. In fact, he spoke in Reno when I was a delegate there to vote to put Angela as the chair, and it was him and Ron Paul and Dave and a bunch of incredible speakers. Daniel McAdams, who's the co-host with Ron Paul, he'll be on my show.
Todd Haggerman.
No, he wasn't a speaker there, but yeah.
No,
anyways,
I apologize. Sorry, not a speaker. I meant like, never mind. I'm stupid. Go ahead. I was just well, we're naming these people, these big people in like the Mises Caucus. I was like, don't forget Todd. My bad.
Yeah, well, Todd and I have our own conflict. I've been wanting to debate him because his job is in some form or fashion involved with ESG. So I would very much like to. He doesn't seem to want to discuss it with me, and I don't blame him. I mean, it would probably jeopardize his career. But I think that he's in an interesting position, as our treasurer, to also be involved with ESG. I think that there's a real conflict there, and I hope he can find a way to work through it without creating a real conflict. I don't know.
I haven't heard this spice. Well, give me the spice. You already dropped the drama. Like, what's the spice? He's involved in ESG. What do you mean?
His career, he had it listed on his
right,
like his description online. I don't know the guy personally. So like, I'm not hating on him at all. I just think that that it would be like a higher up in the Libertarian Party that works for the central banks. Like, you'd be like, hey, what's going on here? So that's kind of my perspective on it, and I would just like to have a discussion with him. People are constantly giving him shit because of his career, and we'll see if he ever wants to talk about it. Honestly, I don't know the guy. I don't hate the guy. I just think that it's an interesting conflict.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, if anyone was debate him on it or talk to him about it, it'd probably be you.
I think I could do a good job at it, and I'm also, I would say that, like, even though I can be vicious, when I'm talking to an ally, I'm not at all that way. So I hope that he realizes that. Maybe he's only seen me debate neocons, and then in which case he probably thinks I'm a complete lunatic. But I'm actually very kind. Yeah. I had on what's his name. God, I can't remember his name. Anyways, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I have the same issue because like a lot of the stuff that I do in Twitch is on like these panels, and like, I'll be debating like, 7 lefties, and 2 of them claim to be conservative, and like, it's blood sports. It's a panel of 9 people, right? And it's all entertainment for like shock. And so I just say wild shit sometimes, like I think probably the wildest thing I ever said is I was doing Hippy Dippy Rumble, which at the time was like the biggest kind of like debate panel in the Twitch space, and I won that one. I was like the 3rd one to win, and
awesome.
And so like, yeah, no, it was fun, but like they just threw a random topics out at you, right? So it was a Rumble, so you didn't have any time to prepare, and they threw January 6th out, and they were like, what do you feel about it? So I was like, all right, how do I just make this as spicy and as based as possible to piss off everybody so that I can win from controversy alone? So I was just
Didn't go far enough.
I was like, I am so fucking sick of conservatives bitching about the fact that Ashley Bobbitt was killed. She was a fucking martyr. She knew what she was doing. She stepped into that fire and she died for our freedoms. And you should look at her as the martyr and the hero that she is for dying, just like the Christians that died from the Romans to the lions. And people were like, what? It was so much fun.
I think it was your argument about slaves being in the house or the field. I think that might have been a little bit spicy.
I mean, yeah. Oh yeah. I have a lot of spicy arguments because I had to look up Twitch TOS to determine whether or not this was allowed. And like I had to do research to determine whether or not I could use this argument. But basically the argument is I lay out taxation as like that we have a right of self-ownership, and by having a right of self-ownership, right, that you own the product of your labor, right, which is always, the commies love that shit until, but then you add in surplus value and somehow that magically goes away, whatever. And so like I did that, right? And then I basically justified taxation as a form of his slavery, right? Like if 20% of your stuff is taken, then out of a 5-day work week, you're a slave of the state, 1 day out of the 5. And I was like, and yes, it's better slavery than other forms of slavery. But just like the black slave in the American South that sees the house Negro, as being a better slave, I'm just saying that I would rather be a free man than be a house Negro. And like, when you say that to like lefties, they just like, oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh, dude, I give you full applause. That's a beautiful argument. And you're absolutely right. So like, that's my favorite thing to do is when I can say something that's totally true, but say it in a way that really pisses people off. That's fucking gold. By the way, how many people you said that was the biggest debate arena? I'm curious, what does that amount to in terms of like viewers or whatever?
Oh, live viewers in Twitch. I think it was like for the Rumble. I think the Rumble was the championship that I did. That was like 4K, but the Rumble I think was like 2K at the time. But Dylan Burns, he was the guy that ran it. He quit. Well, he didn't quit. He's still streaming, but he quit doing like those debates, mostly because Twitch can't stop banning conservatives and libertarians. And so like, it's not like you can't get like an even panel. And so the you have to constantly pick like brand new people, and like, they're just not that good at debating. Right. I don't know how the hell we haven't been banned. At one point in time on here, I had this guy that was an Islamist that kept giving us death threats. So I did
Filipino Islamist.
Yeah. So no, that was a different guy.
Yeah. Sorry. There was like 4.
So we did a whole episode towards him for, where I was just spitting off what I like to call hate facts. And I cooked a pound of bacon and I was just eating bacon on stream. And I had a picture that I drew of Muhammad and it had an arrow that said, "This is Muhammad." And I said, "This person likes to rape 14-year-old girls named Aisha." And then I ate bacon on stream. And like, people were like, "How the fuck did you not get banned for that?" I swear to God, there's a fan of us. Like some corporate suit at Twitch is like, no, you can't ban this guy. I love this guy. Like, I don't, if you're there and you're watching, I love you, sir. You clearly have kept me. We haven't gotten a single strike. I have no idea how. Oh, it's beautiful.
Amazing. I've only ever gotten 1 strike on YouTube, and I have no clue how either. I mean, I am very cautious. I certainly try not to step over the line, but I absolutely do. So I don't know why I haven't been struck down. I think that relatively flawless track record is going to change dramatically after I have Alex Jones on tomorrow. I think the Eye of Sauron will set itself upon me, and I'll probably get nuked from YouTube here soon. So, it is what it is. But
so someone in my chat
do not
said,
turn down opportunities to talk to Alex Jones. You just don't do it.
Period. I would do it in a heartbeat. Yeah. Somebody said, if Clint can be kind to Jack Murphy, he can be kind to anybody.
Yes, I had Jack Murphy on my show, and I was kind to him.
You know what? 100% fair. Poor Jack Murphy, man. The guy just dug himself into a hole so deep, but instead of just being like, "Yeah, I've done some crazy shit," like that literally could have just been like, "Yeah, I've done some wild shit in my life. I'm better now." Like that's all he had to do to fix all of his problems. But instead, he was like, "Fuck you."
Well, it's tough because he went from a place of, kind of rapidly growing. I don't know if I'd call it stardom, but respect in the talking head sphere, and then he was just slammed down to earth. And I think it was just hard for him. He had probably built a little bit of ego in that rise, and then when the fall came, he just couldn't. He just couldn't adjust quickly enough. And I hope that because my progression has been relatively steady, that I'm not getting egotistical with this, and that ultimately, if I have some sort of, I don't have anything like that in my history that can really fuck me up. So I guess I'll be all right. But they're still going to label me all sorts of crazy things here soon. I've already had the Southern Poverty Law Center write 2 articles about me, so it is what it is.
There you go. So I would say to anybody watching on any audience, wherever that may be, just as if you're going to get into this game, if you want to be like a libertarian podcaster or YouTuber, et cetera, first find your niche. Number one, right? Like, because if you don't have a niche, you're never going to succeed. Our niche is I know more about transgender and critical gender theory than probably any other fucking Liberty podcast or any of those people. I'll fucking take on anybody any day. And the philosophy. So that's number one. But number two, if you do this, just know that if you get popular, you don't have skeletons in your closet. Everything will come out eventually. Your address, you will get doxxed. You eventually.
I already was. Yeah.
Right? Like you're gonna get doxxed. Whatever secrets you think you have, they're coming to the surface. And so just own it, and don't apologize. Just say you're different, right? Just double down, and be like, yeah, I did that shit. I don't give a fuck. And move forward. And if you can do those two things, you'll probably find some relative success. I mean, we're broke. And we're still in like the top, I think like 0.65% of Twitch, but Twitch is weird. It's an extremely exponential business, right? It's not like YouTube, right? Like it's like the overwhelming majority of people go to an audience of no one.
Interesting. So it's basically like 0.0001 gets 99% of the viewership, or what?
Yeah, basically. So I think like if you have like over 1,000 viewers, like you're in the top 0.05% of Twitch, right?
Holy shit.
Yeah, when you look at Twitch and you just like go on there for the first time and you see like a couple famous people with like 80,000 views or 40,000, like Hassan, right? He usually sits around 40 to 60,000. You're like, you can get really depressed because we averaged like, I think we averaged like 35, maybe a little lower, just kind of depends, live views. And that puts us in like almost in the top 0.5%.
That is wild, man. Yeah, I mean, it's rough. It makes me wonder, why don't you just go to YouTube? Like, at least you get a couple hundred.
Well, there's no discoverability on YouTube, so it's like we're on YouTube. We need. I think we're okay. Yeah, I mean, we have 737 subscribers. We hit our watch hours like 2,000 watch hours ago. We're well over 6,000 now, but for whatever reason, we don't have the subs. It is what it is. But yeah, like discoverability is rough on YouTube. Like once you have an audience to bring to YouTube, eventually we'll probably end up being YouTubers. I don't fucking know.
No, it's been tough. I totally grant you that. It used to be, the Wild West days. You could blow up really rapidly. And now it's a real grind. I just hit 10,000 subscribers literally yesterday on YouTube. So but I feel like my growth is picking up really rapidly because I just put together like the craziest lineup for a month I could possibly muster. I got like,
you got Alex Jones, you got Dave Smith, you got Styx, you got Anomaly. Who else you got?
I got Alex Stein. I went through basically every high profile person I knew essentially, and I got them all on in the same 30-day period, and that gave me like 3,000 subscribers on YouTube in a month. And I'm hoping that I can now parlay that. Like I have Jesse Kelly, who's the replacement for Rush Limbaugh. He's already agreed to come on.
Nice.
So I've got, because of the track record, I feel like that's really how you build your brand, especially if you're an interview style show. You just demonstrate that, like, okay, I've now had, and I also had on, I have on Judge Andrew Napolitano every Thursday, which is pretty cool. And that has helped add to my credibility, I think.
For sure.
And then I had on, but then I'll have on people that are, fucking miles away from libertarianism. I had a base lefty panel where I had Fiorella Isabel, who works for RT, and Pasta from the Convo Couch, who I was just on with Dave Smith and Jimmy Dore 3 days ago. And I'm just building it out.
Blowing up, bro. You're blowing up. I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, I'm just building the base. It's like, it proves out though that like once you've talked to 25 or 30 of the higher profile people and they all know that you're like, okay, I've gone on this guy's show. He's got good banter. He's got good questions. He's not like out there to try and tear me down or something. I feel like that's how you kind of build it out. And my hope is that, either The Blaze or Gas Digital or who knows, InfoWars, or someone decides to bring me into their umbrella.
What the fuck is it about Gas Digital? What the fuck is it about Gas Digital? I've never hear about Gas Digital. I only hear about Gas Digital from libertarians. It's like this secret fucking big place. It's like Gas Digital is so fucking weird to me.
Because it's Legion of Skanks. It's Dave Smith's comedy.
He's a big fan. He watched a lot of Gas Digital.
It's fully independent, and you can say whatever you want on there. They don't care.
Exactly. exactly.
By he,
And I'm good.
I mean, literally he.
Oh, okay. who
You
is
can't
he?
see.
Why are you showing him their? Why are you showing him your?
He's in the
kitchen?
same room as me, my co-host.
Oh, okay. Oh shit! All right, I didn't realize that. He's
Where are you
gonna
going?
pop in now.
Wait, don't make it weird. Don't make it weird.
I'm just showing.
You're making it weird.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, Guess Digital. Like, I just feel like I just need a purely independent market. Jesus Christ, this is getting concerning.
Get the fuck out of here.
Because I am gonna get nuked from everywhere eventually. I know that. So
yeah,
that's why I want to get a home.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like that's kind of the thing we've done on Twitch is like, it's like, look, we're here until we're not here. I love Twitch as a platform. I think that Twitch as far as live streaming goes and like integration of like emotes and like, videos that you can play and channel points, it's by and large the best live streaming that you can do. The chat engagement is way better than YouTube. You don't need a separate fucking window. You can do it through OBS. I don't know how YouTube hasn't fixed that yet. You know what I mean? Like YouTube is just trash. But the market is so much larger on YouTube. And so at a certain point, you get banned from Twitch, and then you hope to succeed on YouTube.
yeah. Well, and I'm probably I've already
or Rumble.
Yeah, I've already created my Odyssey, my Rumble, my locals. I'm trying to build out my backup plan, but I'm such a fucking boomer when it comes to technology. I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of it. So if I get nuked, obviously I have 50,000 followers on Twitter, so that helps a lot. And eventually I'll lose that too. So it's maybe I'm gonna fly too close to the sun like everybody else and get nuked, but whatever. You only live once.
Yeah, well, luckily you seem to be doing all right for yourself.
Yeah, well, that's really the coolest part about my position. Why I feel like I have no excuses. I'm not married. I have no kids. I'm independently wealthy. What the fuck else am I gonna do other than like give this my all and just see what I can make out of it? And
you could buy a boat. You could buy a boat and get bitches on a boat. Like that's always an option.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the Stoics already commented on that. There's nothing sadder than when a man's soul has died, but his body yet lingers.
Right. Well, my soul is very much alive, thank God. So they can take my corporeal being, but I will still live on.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like a man's soul can be healed by some hot bitches on a boat. I don't know what kind of weird shit y'all are into. But I'm just saying. I mean,
when we get to that level of wealth, I'll try it out and we'll see how bad my
you know what I mean? It's like that old Daniel Tosh joke where he's like, money can't buy happiness. He's like, if you've been on a wave runner, like try and frown on a wave runner.
Frown on a wave runner.
You know what I mean? Like just.
Well, are you guys familiar with Ashton Birdie at all?
No. I'm not. No.
Okay, she was like a Trump, like a MAGA girl. She's got 150,000 followers on YouTube. Anyways, she's my girlfriend, and she has stopped doing political commentary. So my backup plan is to just buy out her YouTube account if they nuke mine, and see if I can survive over there for a while. She's got way more subscribers anyways. So
my backup plan, right, is to find like a Chinese version of Instagram, right, and just steal a bunch of photos. And then make a bunch of Instagram pics catfishing them with Cash App on them and just interact with nobody and just follow them and copy and paste their photos onto Instagram and just see how much money flows in from like 20 or 30 Instagram. I think it's actually a pretty good financial plan, to be honest. I think I might be onto something.
That could work. I don't know, but that's the thing that sucks though. Like, I'm not interested in doing this for money. I just want to reach as many people as possible. And that's the hard part is like, I know they're going to try and cut my reach as soon as I get to some sort of threshold of notoriety. And, that's what concerns me most.
Well, the secret to protecting yourself is to become friends with Keffals. Once you become friends with Keffals, you'll be uncancelable.
All I know about Keffals is that, Crip Daddy has been going ham about him on Twitter for the past week. I don't know who that is though.
Her, you're on Twitch. Her.
Oh, I don't know who her. I don't know who her is.
Kevels is a famous trans rights activist streamer that is like immune to getting canceled. She's the one that got Kiwi Farms taken down. She's the one that got Destiny banned from Twitch. Like she goes hard.
I don't know anything about it. Sorry.
The Catboy server. Yeah, there's a lot of. But regardless, I was just trying to make a joke.
Stunning and brave.
Most importantly, she's stunning.
Yes. And probably beautiful. I have no idea. I don't have a fucking clue who this person is.
There's definitely worse out there. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, oh man, what a lucky man you are to be in the YouTube space and to have the capacity to ignore Twitch. It is it is like the best way to describe a Twitch politics is Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke Skywalker in Episode 4. You know, never has there been a what is it? Never has there been a something of scum and villainy. He's describing Mos Eisley.
A more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's dying down a little bit. I don't want to take you too much because, like, I know you have Alex Jones in like 10 hours.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you had any questions, like, shoot, of course. Anything you wanted to talk about, but also if you ever need a debate, bro, like I am an attack dog if you ever want one.
Killer,
I do have one audience question for you before you leave, but we can. It's definitely an outro thing.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm glad to have met you because obviously you do know your shit. So I'm sure I'll find you. I'll add you to my tool belt.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and lay the final question on me. No problem.
All right, this is from a longtime viewer, Angie. She just wanted to know, she heard your about the '08 crash and buying all those houses up as a young man. She wanted to know if you had so many that you gave one to each of your girlfriends. And then she more specifically just wanted to know, do you have a New England autumn home yet?
I do not. In fact, I don't own any real estate right now. I am building 6 houses though, so I guess I do own real estate, but they're all under contract to sell, and then I will be completely real estate free. I intend to go entirely into cash and hard assets, but not real estate as a hard asset. As far as giving any of my girlfriends housing, I allowed them to live with me for free, but I did not give them the deeds to any of my properties because I'm not out of my fucking mind. But I had two very loving long-term 5-year relationships that I do not regret at all, and I hope they don't regret it either, and we're still on good terms, so I think it worked out. As for vacation homes, I certainly intend to buy a bunch of additional properties once the market corrects, but that ain't now, so give it a couple years.
If I may make a biased recommendation, if you're looking for housing in like New Hampshire, I would look around Lake Winnipesaukee. It's more of a kind of I wouldn't say resort, but a vacation destination kind of. There's a lot of like people having vacation houses there. So like the wintertime, the lake freezes over and you can like ice skate out there and nobody's around. You can walk like a 1/10 of a mile out into the water and it's still only maybe waist deep.
Oh, I love it, dude.
Beautiful
I really appreciate the recommendation actually, because there's probably a 50% chance I end up moving to New Hampshire because that's where my free staters are. That's where this guy, my brother from another mother, Reed Coverdale, host of Naturalist Capitalist, he's out there now.
There you go.
He's the brainchild behind LP&H, just so you know.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I looked at his channel. I've been trying to figure out your T-shirt this whole time you've been on, like trying to read the undertext, and you finally sat back. It's like, oh, I got it. And I just went on a hardcore look for his channel. So
yeah. Well, Naturalist Capitalist, it's on YouTube, but the Four Horsemen is the once a month show he does with Eric Jackman and Ryan Dawson. Ryan Dawson is also an extraordinarily banned human being from everywhere. You may get nuked just for me saying his name. He's so banned. But yeah, it's a great panel, and they bring in one high profile person per month to round out the Four Horsemen. It's a really cool format, and he's had a lot of success with it. But he's now been nuked from Twitter 5 times or something, so he's struggling to stay afloat too. It's It's hard out here for people.
Yo,
to try and tell the truth.
I hate that I had to get a Twitter to do this, right? Because I was just like, people were like, you're an idiot if you don't have Twitter because you have to reach out to people for interviews, and it's an easy way to do it. And yes, we've been using Twitter since like March, and it is a boon for those interviews, but it's so obvious. It's so obvious that I'm gonna fucking be nuked at some point, but luckily I'm not big enough yet.
But you'll be all right for a while.
Scott, you should know the name Ryan Dawson because that's one of the sources used for that presentation you gave about the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
So he is so good about Civil War history. It's so entertaining to listen to. He just goes and goes. It's fantastic.
Unless he starts talking about boats, like you don't get him started talking about boats on the Civil War, because then you have to listen to like 30 minutes of him talking about the ironclads and no.
Dude, yeah, he's got some encyclopedic knowledge when it comes to a lot of areas that you're not allowed to talk about. But I love anybody that's like that. I still, I have a lot of affection for weaponized autism, and I think he suffers it like with the best of them.
I've always told my chat that I think that this is like my greatest strength is that like I don't have autism as a libertarian. Like I can talk about philosophy, but I'm not autistic. And that is like the greatest strength in this space because so many of us are. But I can make that joke because I have an autistic son. So fuck all of you if you want to call me ableist.
I actually agree with you, man. I think that there's like my secret weapon is that I'm a relatively normal guy that is actually able to like socially interact. And for a libertarian, that seems to be rare. And I honestly didn't think that like I thought it was just a joke. And then I started to go to libertarian conventions to speak, and I was like, holy shit, I am definitely like the coolest person here. It's like this is wild. Because like I was never. I mean, I was always somewhat popular in school, but I was definitely never one of like the cool kids. But at a libertarian convention, I am the coolest motherfucker you'll ever find.
Yeah, it's like in my Discord, we have like 400 people in my Discord, and it never fails that like you make a joke in my Discord server, and then like someone comes in with like 14 bullet points to describe why what you said isn't accurate, and it's like, dog, like I was just a fucking joke, man.
I've got a great one. I've got a great one for you. Last night I found this article. Well, so a week ago I tweet out I'm at this I'm convinced at this point that at least 50% of the Ukraine in bio accounts on Twitter
I saw that, yes.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't believe that there could be this many stupid people. Anyways, there's an article that comes out a few days later, says it's upwards of 60 to 90% are bots or something like that. And my buddy Guy Swan, who does Bitcoin Audible, which is a great show, he comments and he goes, "Are you bragging because you were off by so much?" And he's just joking, he's just because it was like 50% versus 60%. This one of my followers, King Autism, just launches into the guy, goes, well, actually, 50% of 90% means that 58, it's like 57%, which is like when you consider that, it's incredibly close to 50%, given that it was just an estimate based off of his analysis of that, you're just like, oh my God, dude. I love this community. I love this community.
Oh, the objectivists are worse though.
I would imagine.
Have you spoken with many objectivists?
Nah, not really. Not really.
I honestly, believe it or not, I think that is the community we need to link up with more than anybody, because as much as they're really hateful and hate libertarians, despite being like 98% the same as us, right? They understand.
Torture Rand.
Right? God rest her soul. And I say that because I know it would piss her off to say, God rest her soul.
Yeah, that would make her furious.
But like, they understand the philosophy in a way that like almost no one else in the libertarian space does. And I think that's a really important thing that is like, because like I see these people all the time, and I'm not trying to talk shit, and I understand that I've already burned enough bridges, but I don't give a fuck. I'll burn all of them to be principled. Like when you look at like, Tho Bishop, for example, right? Great guy, really, you know what I mean? Probably a neoclassical kind of Chicago school economics, little L libertarian, great for the party, etc. But there's so many people like him that like the way they engage is always at a policy level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's just such a poverty of philosophy within the libertarian space that, you know, I think is desperately needed if we're going to be able to fight the socialists and the Marxists, because the socialists gives us a moral prescription of how the world should be and tells you that you're wrong, right?
Right.
And most of the libertarians, they go, well, you should value freedom, and here's how you do that, or here's some reasons why the market does things better. And it is the objectivists that's like, we'll fucking hammer the Marxists into the fucking ground with philosophy and prove why they are evil. And so, like, I honestly think that one of the people, like, I interviewed Dr. Yaron Brook on, you know, for a stream. It was a great interview. I still want to fucking debate him because he said some wild shit that pissed me off about ANCAPs and libertarianism. And he was like, this is why libertarianism must fail. And I'm just like, fuck you. But also super honored to be speaking with you, you know, but like, I honestly think we need to do more to bridge that gap, because I think that we both have strengths that the other side is kind of missing.
I think our differences are probably intractable just because they have such an anger towards people like me. So I'm more than willing and capable of having a conversation with someone like Yaron, but I don't think it'll ever happen. If it does, it'll be probably overly contentious unnecessarily, and I don't understand that perspective, honestly. I feel like there's a reason that they fail too, and it's because they're fucking assholes. Like,
yes,
that's why,
110%. Yes.
Man, whenever they come into the server and like some of them will just like make a quip. The biggest things is either having children seems to be like a big problem to them. Like they just have no interest in that. So the ones we've run into, more or less. And then, oh hell, I lost it with the. I feel like Gummy's kicking in now. But one of them just came in and was like, I'm done with the LP. They can't do anything. I'll stick to my like my private ventures into trying to change people's hearts and minds. And it's like, that's cool, man. I'm really excited for you to make your coterie of philosopher kings and take over these nations, but they have infrastructure, so I'm probably going to go that way.
Right. Yeah. Well.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I just mean there's a lot to be that libertarians could learn from the objectivists, despite the fact that they're assholes.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. But I mean, I think that most good libertarians have some underpinning of objectivism in their learning process. So I hope that we don't lack it entirely. Obviously, you feel like there's a dearth of it, and maybe that's true, and I just haven't seen it personally. But you know, I run with so many really incredibly brilliant people,
right?
That it probably slants my view. But like Jose of No Way Jose does almost entirely philosophy discussions. Keith Knight of Don't Tread on Anyone podcast, he works for the Libertarian Institute. He's a great, you know, in-depth philosophy guy. So I don't know. We have those tools in our tool belt too, but like I think that it's for whatever reason it doesn't reach that huge of an audience. You know, like I feel like the only person that seems to really function from a really beautiful philosophical backdrop that has an enormous audience is what's the kid? He's not a kid. He's like in his mid-30s, but he just had on Jordan Peterson. Do you guys know who I'm talking about? He's from
right?
No, he's from Russia.
Oh, Casimir, you would know. The Russian guy. The one that interviewed Hoppe, one of the few people that was able to interview Hoppe.
I don't remember if he interviewed Hoppe, to be honest, but he's not a libertarian. He's like
Lex Friedman.
Huge. Yes, Lex Friedman.
Oh, you mean Lex Friedman? Yeah.
Thank you, Casimir.
Yeah, Lex comes from a really seemingly deep philosophical, you know, study background. It just you can tell from his questioning, he always finds a way to take people that aren't really deep and take them deep. You know, it's like it's a beautiful thing. So I hope that, you know, one of our people can do the same. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you're right. Like there are plenty of that. I just mean that how many libertarians, apart from people that like do this regularly, do you know that like understand argumentation ethics?
Probably not a ton. I mean,
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I think like some of those foundational things are things that like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being nerdy. Maybe I am being autistic. Who knows?
we all, even us non-autistic libertarians, we still have a little bit of it in us. It's just how it works.
Yeah. I mean, you do have a girlfriend, so you know.
Exactly.
You know, so but maybe not.
But she's autistic though. So.
Oh shit, Mr. Svetov.
Not a deal breaker.
Yeah,
you would never
know it, but Ashton is actually autistic, and she's really the first person I've ever had in my life that has any, is on the spectrum at all that I knew.
Is she your favorite? Is she your favorite? It sounds like she's your favorite. Is she your favorite? No, she just happens to be autistic, huh?
You're making this very
real convenient.
You're making this very awkward.
That's my job.
Look, I'm sorry. I should have warned you. Twitch is a different beast, right? Like you got to mix in a little bit of the giggles from time to time.
Oh, dude, you'll see me mix it in. You'll see me mix it in tomorrow, man. I have a whole plan for our introduction. We'll see if Alex goes along with it. I have no idea, but it's going to be fun.
Oh God. We'll definitely tune in to Liberty Lockdown or Infowars.com, either one. And check out Clint Russell speaking with Alex Jones. I'm super excited for you.
People were asking me like, did you think that this could ever happen? And or is this like is this your wildest dream? I was like, no, this is not my wildest dream. I never dreamt it. I never thought that I would, get an hour-long discussion with Alex fucking Jones. Like this is absolutely crazy to me.
I have this weird.
You seem like a man who doesn't have dreams. You're a man who has like goals.
Yeah. Well, but I do have goals that are dreams, though. I mean,
fuck was that? What the fuck was that?
That edible is fucking fire, by the way. I gotta get one.
I'm in this weird place, right? Where like we're like, we can tell that we're almost there, right? Like I'm broke as shit, right? Because we were like, fuck it, we're just gonna do this. We're gonna throw caution to the wind and say we have a fucking dream. I'm gonna put in 80 hours a week and just fucking make it happen, right? So I'm broke as shit, but also like I have Carrie Smith's phone number. Like, that's just such a weird fucking thing to me. You know what I mean? Like it's so strange to be in like that liminal space between like almost there and not there. And like, right. I feel like you're financially you're in a different situation, obviously, but I feel like you're probably like higher up, but still kind of in that space where you're like, I'm almost there. I just fucking I'm friends with Dave Smith, but like, I'm talking to Alex Jones. How the fuck is this happening? But also, when do I get my 500,000 subscribers? You know what I mean? Like,
well, you're totally right, dude. Like I've had on, huge high profile people, Kim Iverson and all these people that are like absolutely massive. And yet, I don't hardly make any money from this. I mean, compared to my old career, I honestly, I make a pretty good, living, for doing what I love. Like it's incredible that I make any money doing this. So I'm not complaining at all. And fortunately I have enough assets that it doesn't matter anyways, but I could barely live off of what I'm making, and a lot of people would consider me like probably a top 5 libertarian podcaster at this point. And it's like there's not a lot of money in this unless you get to the fucking tippy top, because we are just such a small pond. But it's okay. I don't care, man. Like because I love it so much. And fortunately I do have the assets I do. It's like, who cares? I'm just gonna keep doing this until they fucking nuke me from everywhere. And hopefully that doesn't happen for a while.
My goal is to just climb the ladder, crushing every other person until I'm wealthy, right?
Oh, you have really studied Marxist argumentation.
Yeah, you got it. Dual power theory, right? We're in stage 3, son. We're infiltrating the bureaucracy, all right? Like I'm fucking, oh shit. My favorite is every time I, go ahead.
As someone who has climbed his way to not the tippy top, but upwards. I would encourage you to not try and crush all of the people along the way. It is not like the biggest thing that has helped me is that I am truly deeply appreciative of all of the people that have helped me along the way, and they're ultimately the people that inspired me to get on this path in the first place. So like to turn around and be like, now I'm gonna strangle the life out of you would be fucked up.
I just mean the leftists.
You're not fail me again.
Oh, the leftists. Oh, well, yeah, you should crush them for sure.
Yeah, no, I just mean like, it's just like, okay, like who's like, how much shit can I talk now to where they'll be willing to debate me so that I can fuck them up? My favorite is every time I debate Destiny now is like, you can find on like r/Destiny, like all these threads coping every time I debate him, because I'll debate him on a panel and he'll eventually just get so pissed off that I won't engage in his consequentialist bullshit that he'll get up and leave and go make dinner and come back and eat and like let the panel whatever panel we're on, like go on for like 40 minutes before he hops back into the conversation because he's just like, I can't. I'm like, no, that's evil. I don't, fuck you. And he'll just be like, wait, what? Like, no, let's talk about these specific outcomes. And I'm like, yeah, that's a subjective. It's just, it's so much fun to me.
Only debate I've ever seen Destiny do was against Ryan Dawson, and Dawson fucking ate his lunch. So
I bet.
Yeah, that was like 6 years ago. That was before Dawson got nuked from everywhere. But yeah, I haven't been impressed. But I've only seen one debate, so maybe Destiny's good. I have no idea.
He's all right. I've actually met better on Twitch, to be honest.
Doesn't surprise me. Oh, anyways, I gotta get some dinner, guys. You mind if I pop out?
Not at all.
Not at all. Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown. You can find him on most podcasts. We'll link his YouTube again here in just a second.
Thank you so much. And at Liberty Lockpod on Twitter, if you want to get on board, just broke 50K. So, that seems to be the one place that I'm able to grow really rapidly and not get nuked because I'm very, very cautious. So make sure you follow me there so you can continue to follow me wherever I end up after YouTube inevitably kills me tomorrow.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I keep going, guys. I love what you're doing, and I think that you will find success. You just gotta fucking find a way to stay above water in the meantime.
Oh yeah, I'm not worried about it. We're kicking ass.
All right,
I got my dowsing rod behind the screen, so we're getting there.
Go witch that water, gentlemen. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Hey, you have a good one.
You just watched a clip from our Twitch channel, Fabian Liberty. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe here on YouTube, or go ahead and give us a follow on twitch.tv/Fabian Liberty.